Radhika, about the time span that you covered, because you said these were stories, so they must range entire lifetimes. So if you could tell us what kind of time span all this archive covers.
Well, I didn't really ask for, I asked them to narrow it down to like 2 years or 3 years or anything like that. I just asked for their story. So some people begin at the very beginning, and some people talk about things that are very important to them, which is like in the last 2 years or 3 years. And some people start from everything from where they were born to what happened to them and how they got married. So some stories are 20 years, some are 10, some are 5. It's their choice of how they want to tell their story.
So it's almost like it's Sri Lanka's history in the recent past, but a version that we have never really heard before.
Yeah, because as you said at the beginning, history is often written by the powers that be, or the historians, or people that choose to write history. So you never hear history, and it's what we read in textbooks or what we read in newspapers. You don't hear history from the perspective of those that lived it, from people that are common. So the whole purpose of this is that you layer the history with stories of people. So over time, if we contribute to this kind of history as individuals, we record stories of other people, through the lives of others, we will see a collective history that is very much rooted in common experiences.
To build on that, is it possible for people, like you have started this initiative and you have given to Sri Lanka all these stories of women who usually will never have their stories told, and you have archived it. Now it's there available in the National Archives. All the material that you have, the video journals, the photo journals, the visual mediums that you've done, which is so creative, and also the stories, the handwritten stories, all of that will be available. Can someone add to that, especially the website? Now that's going to be available to everyone on an international platform. Can someone make a video, have a story told, and add to that?
Yes, I mean basically there will be an opportunity within the website to send their feedback on the stories. The objective of the web archive is that it becomes a living history. So yes, it's meant to be written to, meant to be added to. So if people want to share their stories or are inspired by these stories, or want to share their own story, then they can write back, and then we can put it up on the web, or they can add to it basically.
If you could also tell us a little bit about, you spent 6 months on this project, and the kind of collaboration that you had from the people in the communities and also from everyone who helped you out. If you could tell us a little bit about the effort that went into this.
Well, it's obviously it's a lot of work, and it's not the work of one person. It's a collaboration. I had support for the videography, for the photography. I had support for accessing these women. So we had 4 or 5 different community-based organizations on the field that were helping us. In Colombo, there is an organization called Vilindu, which is a women's empowerment organization with a lot of access to women in the north. So I partnered with them, and they were my administrative and sort of field support. So there's a lot of individuals that were part of this project.
Radhika, if you could tell me some of the other stories that have really touched you, because you have had the rare opportunity, I think, because you have taken the initiative to talk to women who usually are just statistics. You were telling me as a development practitioner how in your experience you went and spoke to these women, but you were never able to take their stories in because they were merely statistics, and you just took out the facts that you needed to. So you have captured their stories and made them last basically forever. So it's like a book that will be on a bookshelf, and people will hear their stories. So if you could tell me again another story that really touched you.
I think there's a story from the north that touched me, about this mother who got displaced. She speaks about how, I think she has 5 children, but one of them died because her husband was carrying one child, and he was running in front of her, and she uses the words, she basically says he vanished in front of our eyes because there was shelling or something like that. And the thing is, these people are just ordinary people. They don't know who's shelling who and what's happening. They just know that they have to run, so they're running. And she says she lost her husband, and then in the whole mess of it, they got her children and she got separated. And so she spent months just going from camp to camp after the liberation. She went from camp to camp, and she collected her children one by one. And now that they're resettled in a new home, and she's trying to rebuild her life. But it's amazing that somebody would go from place to place and collect your children, that the power of love is so strong, and her strength and courage, you never know what she might. I can't even imagine walking through just looking for a child and not knowing if you'd find the child or not finding the child, but her courage and strength.
Radhika, you've been sharing some amazing stories with us, and this whole project is so inspiring because we finally have a chance to find out what and what women have to say about themselves, because like you mentioned earlier, it's very rarely that women get a platform to speak, and where mothers really, because they're so preoccupied with nurturing their children and they're so preoccupied with keeping a household together and making a good future for everyone else, that they forget to really keep their stories. And like even our mother's stories we'll know only from little scraps of notebook paper that we found somewhere. We wouldn't really know her history so much, right? So this is a beautiful way for not just their children but the children of this country to know what the mothers of this generation have been like. So it's truly an inspiring project, and we've come to the end of the interview. It's been really inspiring, and just to remind everybody again, the 6th and 7th, that's tomorrow and the day after the Lionel went, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. you can get a preview of the archives, and also it will be available at the National Archives. There is a Facebook page open called Her Stories, where you can go and you could visit the site and you can see what's happening. Also www.herstoryarchives.org, www.herstoryarchives.org will also be launched, where the stories of these women will be. So Radhika, thank you so much for being part of Good Morning Sri Lanka, and we wish you the best of luck with the project and with all your other endeavors. Thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me here.
That's all we have for you with the interview today. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka. Now, just to remind you about the story that you watched, Her Stories, and you can log on to www.herstoryarchives.org. That's herstoryarchives.org, and it is a collection of some 240 oral histories recounting personal histories, experiences, and hopes seen through the mothers, the Sri Lankan mothers from the south and the north. And you could check out a sample of the collection. It will be a traveling exhibition in Colombo, Galle, and Ampara. And tomorrow, the 6th and 7th of April, you can check out the exhibition at the Harold Pierce Gallery, Lionel Wenth, from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. Her story, something that's worth checking out. And the final moments of Good Morning Sri Lanka almost upon us. A very interesting story I would like to share with you. If you're an animal lover, and I've always especially fancied story about polar bear, you might find this interesting story and also heartwarming. Here's a story of an orphaned
polar bear cub made its temporary home at the Alaska Zoo in Anchorage last Saturday. The 3 to 4 month cub was rescued 2 weeks ago after the bear's mother was killed by a hunter on 12th of March near Point Lay on Alaska's northwest coast. Alaska law allows native tribes who reside in Alaska and dwell on the coast to harvest polar bears. The hunter said he unwittingly shot the mother and didn't know she was with the cub. The hunter brought the cub, who has been named Carly, to Point Lay for care. Carly was then transferred to Anchorage and the Alaska Zoo. Zoo officials said that when the cub came to their care, it weighed 18.4 pounds and is thriving to now weigh 31.5 pounds. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service have announced that the bear will be sent to the Buffalo Zoo later this spring. The Buffalo Zoo will raise Kali alongside a 4-month polar bear cub nicknamed Luna. Officials say allowing the two cubs to play together could help make sure the cubs don't get too attached to their human keepers.
Is that yummies? Oh, I know it. You know what?
So he was ready then.
Yeah.
That was a very cute. I mean, let's face it. It may be a little bit of a tragic, quite a tragic story about the baby polar bear who has lost his mom after hunters had killed him. And his name is Callie. And I remember when I was a kid, I remember watching a movie about a polar bear, and I said, "Oh, he's really cute." And then my brother said, and then I said, "Can you imagine the polar bear when he grows up?" And then my brother goes, "Yes, he decides to eat you." I'm sorry, my brother has a really wicked sense of humor. So there you go, the story of the rescued polar bear cub named Callie, who will soon be sent to the Buffalo Zoo, where he will be growing up with a 4-month-old polar bear cub named Luna. It's nice, Callie and Luna. And while we are on the topic of animals, a very interesting story just recently made headlines, and this is a little bit to do with a monkey and Justin Bieber. And I kind of joke about it, Justin Bieber starting to do a Michael Jackson, with Michael Jackson and his chimp Bubbles. Well, teenage pop sensation Justin Bieber was given a month to provide German authorities with the papers they need to release his pet monkey Mally. Okay, customs officials seized Justin's monkey at the Munich airport last week when the 19-year-old pop star failed to present the health and species protection certificates required to bring the pet into a country. So if you want to picture this, Justin Bieber is going to Germany for a concert, decides to bring a monkey along without the necessary papers. He probably felt he can get away with it because he is Justin Bieber. So what happened was the customs officers decided to hold Mally and was taken to a good animal shelter. And he seemed to be disoriented because they later found out that Mally is actually 14 weeks old and was taken away from his mother at a very young age, and he's currently receiving veterinary care. Justin Bieber has been given 1 month to provide the necessary papers so Mally can be given to him again. The question is, will he do that, considering he is, if I'm not mistaken, he is no longer in Germany. So the story. And well, that's it for this week at Good Morning Sri Lanka. We hope you guys had a great time. It's a weekend, and then for most of you folks, it's a full week of holiday next week. So have a great weekend. We got a video to share with you folks. Take care, relax, spend it with people you want to spend your weekend with, and join us again on Monday because we'll be here keeping you company on GMSL. Bye.